Mama. I'm Courtney Cecil, proud mom of two boys and an organizational culture and behavior change executive. And I'm a believer in building a movement to help the burned out, overwhelmed working moms reclaim their control and free time so that they can confidently remain in the workforce without losing the sanity or themselves. Now, let's get started.
Hey y'all, I'm your host, Courtney Cecil, and welcome back to another episode of the Life Management System. So, normally you will hear me say that this episode is snack size. That is something that I strive for you all so you can get in and out and you can get as much good stuff as possible in a short period of time. However, this is not one of those times. This is not one of those times at all, but I'm really excited about the material. So I'm hoping that you will indulge in something a little longer. So in this episode, I am airing a conversation that I had with Sami Garrett, who is the founder of a community called GEM. Now, of course, GEM is her loving name for it. It actually naturally stands for something though, but more specifically, it stands for Good Enough Matrescence. So GEM is a global community, and at its core, it essentially is giving moms the space to be with each other and evidence-based resources and tools that will support them in their motherhood journey. You can learn more about them in the show notes. I will link them there. You should certainly check them out. But this is going to be a two-part series of Sami interviewing me, 10 questions apiece that were specifically from members of that community. And the topics range from managing maternity leave to managing boundaries and burnout. And of course, no working mom series would be complete if I'm also not covering things like managing your guilt and ways you can be more present with your family. So I'm going to warn you, it's pretty meaty and it's going to give you a lot to think about. So I hope that you are willing to indulge us in this journey and joining some of the conversations of questions with people just like you that were raised by Sami through the community. So enjoy this one. Again, it is a part two. Make sure you are catching both parts one and part two of it, but I appreciate you tuning in. And if you are interested in joining part of this community full of thick resources and support from one another, Sami's done a great job putting it together and bringing this team together. So you can check them out once again in the show notes. So Sami, thank you again for hosting me, and thank y'all for tuning in.
Hello, Courtney. Thank you so much for being with us today. We're so excited to have you.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, Sami, thank you for being here. And hello to the, do you refer to them as the GEM community or
I
GEM?
do. Yeah.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Well, so super excited. I've been following you for a while. I love all of your work. I love how you're helping moms. And so I'll just jump right into it. I would first, before we get into all the questions, I would love to hear a little bit more about you two and how you got into the work that you're doing, 'cause it's awesome.
Yeah. Well, thank you for asking the question. To elaborate a little bit, I am the founder of an organization called Working Moms Movement. And I always say, Sami, that what I teach women inside that program is just as applicable to a 22-year-old dude right out of college as it is a married or single mom that has a career. Like it doesn't really, the context doesn't matter because what I tend to teach people are life skills. I just concentrate specifically on working moms because it is so deeply a niche that I am very passionate about and connect with. And I think that I've been at a place in my life where I hit not a rock bottom is an extreme characterization, but I essentially reached a place where I felt very out of control of my life. I was completely drowning. I don't know if you had this same experience, Sami, when you had your second, but it was my second that did me under. Like the first one, I was like, oh my gosh, I've got this. Like I don't understand why it's so hard. And boy, what a humbling process that was for the second. So it was
Same.
part of that was yours. Like those seconds, man. Like
Seconds.
it's just
It gets you.
that's that's where life gets so much harder, and you realize you can't continue doing things the way you used to do them. You have to do things differently.
Yeah.
So it was at that point that I decided I need to kind of pick myself up by my own bootstraps and apply all of the great knowledge I have learned in my corporate careers to my personal life. And that has just continued to amplify once my kids got in school. And what I found is that you think having a kid is hard and then you have a second. God bless you people out there that have more than two. I don't know how you do it because I can only imagine that amplifies things that much more. But it was like having a second was much harder. And then I have this tendency, and many of my clients have had this tendency to think, oh, well, as soon as the baby starts sleeping, life will get easier. That's also not true. Okay, as soon as the baby is out of diapers, life will get easier. Also not true. Okay, well, as soon as the kid gets in kindergarten and I have this
Wow.
full schedule, things will get easier. Also, very much not true. You really have to do things differently. And that's like, I don't, I guess it takes you going through that to understand that all of the people before you that said that were not lying, that you are not special. That is actually, in fact, reality. Um, but yeah,
Oh
my
my,
background is in, I'm an industrial and systems engineer by trade. So for those of y'all that don't know what that means, I'm essentially trained in how to make things more efficient or more effective. So I'm
Mhm.
constantly applying that to anything that I touch, particularly my time. I've always been extra sensitive of how I spend my time. And then my corporate job has, for the past at least 10 years, been in culture shaping. So culture work in an organization is essentially the alignment of personal employee values with the organization's values. And in order to accomplish that, you have to go through some pretty deep behavior change type work. So when what I do with my clients and what I, in addition, and what I talk about in my podcast for that matter, my podcast is called the Life Management System for Working Moms. And the life management system also happens to be my program. It is essentially the notion of how you can completely retool your life to maximize the time you get and minimize the stress you get. And I'm able to do that by applying that systems engineering background and that behavior change background that I have from a corporate space to somebody's actual like day-to-day life. So
Mm, like
I
perfect. Like,
it is it's funny how something like more HRE like culture change and something more technical like industrial engineering work so well together, but they
yeah.
really do layer in perfectly to help completely retool somebody's ecosystem to make sure they're getting more of what they want and less of what they don't.
Yes, I love that. And that's so true. Like we all have our own ecosystem as mothers, and then we have the ecosystem of our family, and then mix in the ecosystem of work. And I love that. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
and I'm glad you actually touched on that, Sammy, because that's one thing that's really important to acknowledge at the forefront here, because everything that I do with just a bug fly on me, everything that I do with women, even though I'm directly working with the women, it really does impact the entire family. So some of the work that I do, some of the homework that I give my clients, I'm saying, I need you to sit down with your partner and do this. This is a couple exercise. You two have to be aligned
Yeah.
to make the outcome effective for your family. Some of it is work that they have to do with their kids. So it really does, it's very customized to them and whatever they are uniquely going through. But because it is a family thing, you
Yeah.
inherently will not ever feel in control if your family life feels out of control. Those two can't coexist.
Yeah. Oh, 100% agree with you. I love that. And yeah, for everyone listening, if you don't have that second kid yet, or if you don't, that's fine too. But yeah, for me too, it was like just I like it's undescribable how hard that was. So
Yep. Yeah,
yeah,
very humbling.
yes, humbling. That's a great word. Very humbling. Cool. Well, I'll jump right into some of our questions, and I think this is perfect. Perfect segue. Okay, so here's one from a mama who says, I do all the things, work, mother, manage the house. How can I consistently get time to myself when I'm already doing it all?
Um, well, the thing that I would offer, and I tell everybody, and I will repeat over and over and over throughout this conversation, Sammy, is you have to set clear values, because when you're clear on what you value, then you are clear on what to prioritize. And what you prioritize is how you know how to expend your resources. And when I say resources, I mean time, money, and energy. And
Yeah.
so what you do is you start with declaring what those priorities are, and then you have to figure out from there a way to get everything off your plate. If it's not one of your personal priorities, then you
Mm-hmm.
you probably need to let it go. But if it
Mm-hmm.
is a personal priority and there's only so much of you to go around, there's 24 hours to go around, then that tells you if it's actually a priority and you don't have time to do it, then
Mm-hmm.
you need to either outsource or you need to delegate, because those are the only three options. It's either you outsource, you delegate, or you let it go.
Yeah.
Because the alternative is you end up giving yourself away for free. You end up spinning from all ends in order to uh, make something happen.
Yeah.
So it has to be one of those. But let's play this out and say it's an actual priority. It's something that you do want to take care of, then that's going to have to be something that you put first. So when, like, for example, I work out with my trainer 3 days a week. I get up, I knock it out, and then I move on with life. I
Mm-hmm.
kid you not, on those other 4 days, I say consistently to myself, I'm going to do that thing. I'm going to squeeze in 10 minutes of yoga. I belong to Apple's um, like fitness program, because you can actually sort by 10-minute exercises. I can't even squeeze in 10 minutes later in the day if I'm not doing it in the beginning. So you
Yeah.
have to really put first things first if it's something that you do consider that a priority. But bottom line is, if it's not a priority, you shouldn't be doing it. And
Mm-hmm.
if even if it is a priority, you shouldn't be doing it by yourself. That's physically impossible for us to keep the same standards we used to have before kids
Mm-hmm.
if we do it all alone. So you need to delegate or let it go, or outsource it. Those are the options. And I think part of what makes and adds to some of that pressure is this comparison game that we also exist in now, where we see what our neighbors do, we see what social media people are doing, we see what's on TV. And then all of a sudden, we inherently think that either everybody else is doing it all and we are failing, or we are tempted to want what they have because we want it all.
Yeah.
And that is also a little bit of a myth. I feel like I have it all, but like other people might argue differently. So as an
Yeah.
example, I have it all as it relates to a thriving career, a healthy family and marriage, very engaging parent experience with my kids. I have a beautiful house. I travel a lot. I have a thriving social life. But you know what I don't have is a nice car. Like, I don't prioritize a nice car. I
Yeah.
drive a 2013 car that has 170,000 miles on it. That's not something I prioritize. So that's not it all to me, because
Mm-hmm.
it's not something that, like in order to prioritize a nice car, I'm going to have to sacrifice in the travel, as an example. And the travel is something that's really important to me. The nice house is more important to me. So
Yeah.
I think also it's worth just acknowledging, are you finding yourself wrapped up in what other people's standards are, or are they your own standards and what you personally value yourself?
I love that. And you had said that it starts with finding your values and your priorities. Is this your personal values, or is this like your family value, or is it kind of a mixture of both?
It's both. What a great question. It's both. And in fact, that is what I do with my clients. So I call my program, again, the life management system.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very tailored, customized process to you, because what you value, Sammy, is going to be what different than what I value, which is going to be different than every one of my clients or every one of the members of your community. It is
Mm-hmm.
all unique to us. But even within a family unit, it's different. So what's important is that you find the common ground and you understand what's important enough to you both that you are going to prioritize, particularly as it relates to the way you spend serious money, serious time, and the way that you parent. Because there will be things that will look different for each of you. So, as an example, one of my clients, actually, I have multiple of my clients, very much value socialization with girlfriends, and their husbands are more homebodies and don't need that at all. And it's
Hmm.
working through the friction of how both of those things can coexist and
Hmm.
know that the husband is not sacrificing
Yeah.
his ability to be able to stay at home and spend money on whatever it is that's important to him, but still create space for his wife to go meet the to meet the girlfriends. But then a lot of it comes to a head as it relates to the distribution of workload at home, as it relates to parenting. You know, one parent will want the kids in the bed, the other parent won't. You know, it's basic stuff like that. But what I find is that more often than not, the root of marital tension tends to be a symptom of misaligned values where they really haven't unpacked what
I
it
see that.
is that's important to them. So most people will say, I value family. Like if I was talking to your cohort, I'm willing to bet if I ask them if they know their values, probably half of them would raise their hands.
Mhm.
And out of that half, or even beyond that, I'd say, okay, now which of you here would say that family is what you value the most? Most
Mhm.
of them are going to raise their hand. But the
And then what does
problem
that mean?
is, yeah, exactly. Like what family means beneath that is different. Like,
Mhm.
when you say family, are you talking about creating an environment to where your kids will learn to grow up and be independent contributors of society and help the economy? Are you talking about growing kids that are deep in faith? Are you talking about growing kind kids that serve others? Are you talking about spending quality time with each other? Are you talking about a nuclear family or extended family? Like it all means something different. And until you start to unpack and double click on what family really means, you're
Mhm.
probably going to be misaligned with how you spend your time, money, and energy.
Yes. Oh, I love that. Which there is this next question I have, I feel like flows perfectly into this. How can I find balance and not feel guilty to like add to that, especially with once you have your values and your values are aligned? Would this be like, are we feeling guilty and not finding balance because again of those misaligned values?
Yes,
And I guess
exactly.
the
So
question would be, how do I find the balance and not feel guilty? Would pretty much be like figure out those values and go from there.
yes, exactly. We will go through, there will be different nuances of that same answer throughout this entire exercise, Sammy, because so much of it is founded on that. And that's what most people miss. Like most people think, I want to save time. Tell me the latest time hack. I'm like,
Mhm.
girlfriend, no piece of software is going to fix your problem. No piece of, like time blocking or whatever time management hacks your interests you hear about, none of that's going to fix your problem if you don't have clarity on your values. And
I
that
love.
especially shows up with guilt because a lot of moms, I would say I'm super active on Instagram. Um, and every person that follows me, I ask the question, I would love to understand from you where you believe your biggest challenges are as it relates to balancing work and family. And I'm willing to bet 70% of them reference guilt.
Mhm.
And that guilt is often either because they see their stay-at-home mom friends with all of this quantity of time, but they're missing the fact that that quantity is not
Might.
necessarily more favorable than the quality time they get. I would much rather outsource getting my laundry done and preparing my kids' lunches and
Mhm.
instead know that I can spend and dinners. Like I have somebody downstairs cooking for me right now. That's not my highest and best use. I get rid of anything that's not so I can focus on my career. Because
Yeah,
the better I'm doing my career, the more I can outsource low joy items that
mhm,
don't fill my cup up.
for sure.
And the more time then I get to spend on doing the things that I love. So the quality time is where I encourage women to focus. Like even if it's just 10 minutes a day, 10 minutes of you knowing that you need to turn off your brain and turn off your need to tackle your to-do list. 10 minutes, give each child 10 minutes. That alone is hard. But I'm willing to bet most stay-at-home moms aren't getting as much quality time as we
Mhm.
think they are. They're getting the quantity. But when
Yeah.
you know what you value, it enables you to be a lot more confident that you working or you doing some task around the house or you going to the gym or going to time with girlfriends actually is giving you something that
Yeah.
you inherently prioritize. So when you're going to the gym, like if you feel guilty for leaving home to go to the gym, you're essentially saying to your kids, health is important. And health is important because you get one body and you need to take care of it. Or if you are leaving home to go to dinner with girlfriends, you are essentially telling your kids, I value relationships in my life. And in order to have strong relationships, you have to pour into them.
Yeah.
So your value system will help you more confidently know that the time you're spending is time well spent and how it is productively either contributing to you, your family, your marriage, or
Mhm.
the example of what you're trying to instill in your kids.
Oh, yes. We talk about this and I try to model this too and chat about it with everybody, but just the idea that our kids see what we're doing and that's what they think is correct, like whether or not it is. So, especially with the guilt, and if like moms are super guilty and they're like putting themselves last, like their kids, whether they're a male or female, whatever, their kids grow up thinking, okay, mom, woman figure is supposed to be last. Like that's just how
Mhm.
it is. And so, like, modeling all of this for our kids, like this health of friendships, relationships, self care, all these things are so, so important. But I
Yeah,
want
and it says something different depending on whether you're raising girls or boys. So I've got two boys, you've got two, both of yours are girls,
girls.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that like even thinking about how that manifests in the future of your kids based on the gender role and what messages you're perpetuating
Yeah.
that might contribute to gender divide versus, eliminating that, that's important. That's an
Yeah.
important philosophy to think about too, because your actions are also preparing them for the type of life they might have,
Yeah.
and when they're raising their own kids.
Yeah, so true. I wanted to bounce back really quick to the guilt factor and the values. How would you coach someone or tell someone if, and there's probably a misalignment of values here, but I hear this a lot of I value being a really good employee. I also value being a really good mom. I value being a good friend. But when I am going and being, like you said earlier, I'm going out to dinner with my girlfriends. I'm feeling guilty that I'm missing out on quality time for my kids because I've been at work all day. Or now I'm with my kids, they're sick. Oh my gosh, I'm going to get fired because I've had to call out of work now 10 days in a row because flu, then cold, all the things. And where they'll tell you, I value this, but it's almost like there's a conflict in those values. How would you navigate that?
I would argue, Sammy, that there's no conflict. It's just saturation,
Okay.
and nothing's ever going to be perfectly balanced all the time.
Yeah.
And here's the bottom line is we're also not going to do things as well as we used to.
Mm.
It's like there's just not enough hours in the day to do that. But that doesn't mean that we're doing it bad or we're doing it poorly. Just because we're not doing our A plus 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 job doesn't mean we're still not rocking it out of the park. Our kids
Yeah.
still love us. Our employers are still grateful for us. Our
Yeah.
girlfriends get it because they're in the same stage of life that we are.
Yeah.
So I think part of it is just granting yourself some grace,
Mm-hmm.
and recognizing that you probably aren't going to deliver what you used to do. But just because you're doing a B minus job, that's what I call it. Like we're in the B minus stage of life right now, and we have to figure out a way to be at peace with that. Just because
Yeah.
we're doing a B minus job instead of the A plus 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 job we might used to, that's
Yeah.
okay. Like that's the stage of life we're in. We're in the
Good
messy
enough.
middle.
Yeah.
And yeah, and it's also never going to be a 50-50 balance. There will be days you crush it at work. There will be days that you crush it at home. And there will days that you, yeah, probably will look at any of these situations and think I could do better. But
Yeah.
that I could do better is you comparing yourself to your old life when
Yeah.
you didn't have kids as a responsibility. I mean, if you think about the amount of hours you are spending
Mm.
dedicated to your kids, whether
Yeah.
that be mentally thinking about them, mentally preparing for them, even like planning grocery lists and things like that, the things that you used to be able to wing that you can't wing now. When you think about the physical time you're spending with them, getting them up and getting them out the door, getting them in the door, getting them to bed, like running them around with activities. We're
Yeah.
spending 3 to 5 hours at a minimum a day that we used to have that we could put into whatever the heck we wanted.
Yeah. Oh
So
my God.
it's just physically not possible.
It's not possible. And I could even argue too that even before kids, we still had those days where we're like, oh, I could have done better. Oh, this day was kind of bad. But it just, for some reason, then you have kids and it's even harder. And you like almost
Yeah.
romanticize those days. And you're like, those were the days. But I bet we still had probably even some C+ days before having kids. Maybe not always, but
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure we did. Like surely we did because we're human and to human is
yeah,
error. But at the same time, I think back to those days and as much as there's parts of them I miss for sure. I for the flexibility, the ability to just not have to think 20 days in advance and only be able to think right in front of you, the
yeah.
ability
Or not
to move
think.
on a yeah, exactly that too. Oh my gosh. But then I think about a lot of the extra time I had.
Mm.
I did things like watch TV. I don't value TV. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I love a good veg session as much as everybody else probably listening does. But at the end of the day, I'm okay giving the TV up.
Yeah.
Even if things are tighter. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Isn't it funny though? Because I used to watch a lot more before kids too. Like we would have all of our Netflix binges and now it's like I don't know what's new. I don't know. Tell me
Yeah, well, that's it. Like no, is it, are we doing as much at work as we used to?
what.
No, but at the same time, I would argue that I'm a better employee and I'm better serving myself because what I used to do before, I was doing that for the man. And I
Yeah.
mean that like figuratively more than I do literally. But I used to do all of the special projects. I would raise my hand for everything.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, the company's actually not paying me for those special projects.
Yeah.
Instead, I am paying in my free time. And
Mhm.
just because we could do the special projects then, we could raise our hand to take on anything extra, doesn't necessarily mean we're not doing a bad job. It just means we're not giving as much away of ourselves for free. And I'm okay with that.
For sure. This is a perfect segue into this question. This mom says, I have so many ambitions. And I feel like she's the kind of mom that's like constantly raising her hand, even with the kids. I have so many ambitions and want my kids to see me strive for them. And also, I want to spend time with them and make progress at work. I work from home, but it's a tricky balance, and I'm feeling like I'm failing at both. Any suggestions?
I think we touched on a lot of that, Sammy, just now, but I would also argue that you're not failing. That's for damn sure. There's no way that your employer or your kids would think you're failing. I think that that is you probably comparing yourself to what you used to be doing when you were giving a lot of yourself away for free. And I'll tell you what, there is no quicker and easier way to learn that lesson than getting let go. So I
Mhm.
worked at the same company for 16 years. I came from a consulting firm and I poured a lot of myself into that company. I worked 80-hour weeks consistently for decades. And at the end of the day, when there was restructuring happening, I was washed out with the bathwater. And it didn't make a lick of difference that I was doing a bang up job 16 straight years. It didn't make a lick of difference that I'm a human with a family and all my needs. And what
Mhm.
I realized is, at the end of the day, we're in it, we're working for somebody else, unless we are a solopreneur or an entrepreneur. We're giving ourselves away
Mhm.
and that there's a little bit of a social contract with that
Mhm.
where you are being paid to do the job, but we do like women in particular are notorious for feeling pressured to do beyond whatever that job description is.
Oh my
So
gosh, yeah.
I would argue that you are probably doing what you're paid for instead of other stuff now. And you
Yeah.
shouldn't feel guilty about not doing the other stuff. That's
Yeah.
just my read. But
Mission to
I
not feel
fo
guilty.
focus on the quality time over the quantity time. Like
Yeah,
get those 10 dedicated minutes where you can be really present. And I promise you, your kids and your employer are already thinking you're doing enough.
I love that. That's a perfect for this. How can I shut off work to be present with my family?
Ooh. So I do a lot of system stuff. I've talked about that. Like there's a reason my program is called the life management system because a system will inherently allow you to turn off your brain. It will
Mm,
allow you to be more present because you know you have safeguards in place to get the stuff done. So even in my busiest weeks, like I just launched my first children's book last week.
oh,
Even
yay.
yeah, I know. Yay. 2.5 years to get there. It's amazing how long the publishing process is.
Fine.
But
I understand.
this
Mine took forever too. Like, well,
uh
it took 1 year, but still,
one
it's
year.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was and my publisher did warn me. They're like, we're looking at 2 years away. I'm like, well, we should start today then.
Well, yeah.
Um, but like even in a launch week like last week, gosh,
Hmm.
I don't know, Sammy, I've actually been gone for the past month. This weekend I was in DC for my goddaughter's first communion. Last week was a launch. I hosted 20 people for Easter the week before that. I
Oh
was
my,
in Portugal for 2 weeks the week before that.
amazing.
I had my eighth-year-old's birthday party the day before I left for Portugal. I got back the day before the birthday from Orlando, a summit in Orlando. Like
Yeah.
I haven't been home, but guess what? You would never know that I haven't been here. If you walk downstairs, it looks spotless. And I don't say this to
Yeah.
put pressure on people. This is not a comparison thing.
Yeah.
So please don't misread this, but it's more just the point that when you put
Yeah.
systems in place, it's going
Hmm.
to run without your brain, without your attention, without your like it'll run by itself. So that's I think one of the best things you can do for yourself is put systems in place that
Yeah.
you can trust will have things covered even when you're busy. So that's one big thing. And then I believe that the clearer you get to on what you need to get done for the day or the week, the more in control you're going to feel. The less you're going to feel like you constantly have to be tuned in and checking and that sort of thing, because you know safely what's on your plate. You've got time set aside to do it. You know when it's going to get done. So
Yeah.
like I teach my clients the art of playing offense on your calendar instead of defense. Like how do you look ahead? How do you care for um how are you looking 1 and 2 weeks out and shuffling the puzzle pieces around so
Mhm.
that way you're never caught flat-footed
Yeah.
and you can just essentially safely trust that the work's going to get done so that way you're never thinking about that and it does allow you to be more present.
Oh, I love that. I love this. I love the systems. And I'm assuming the systems are literally going to be customized to each individual family and system and mom and all of that. But
Yeah,
that's a great way to start thinking about what kind of systems you could put into place to be more
very
present.
much
Take
so.
that off
Yeah,
your brain.
right. Your routines, your schedule, like all of that, the way your home set up, there's so many different things that will drive what your system should be. And
Yeah.
some of it might be like clear delegation and
Yeah.
delineation of responsibilities. Some of it might be literal tools that you physically put in place. Some of it might be the repeatability of a routine. Like there are different things that make up a system, but the idea is it all works together to help you efficiently and effectively manage your life.
I love that, which is perfect for this. So, what are the best time management strategies to use to be efficient at work, mothering, life, etc.? So, system.
This really is a very like serendipitous question right after. So this one's tricky because it can be very job dependent. So as an example, I started out in manufacturing as an industrial and systems engineer, but I very quickly pivoted to a more flexible job because I knew that was important for the family structure and life that I wanted to create. So I have a lot of flexibility and that helps. So if you
Were
were in
you
a place
scared to pivot? Just ran like, I just wanted to ask for
No, because I was so clear on my values.
yeah,
Like
perfect.
truly, when you talk about mom guilt and alignment of time and confidence that you're making the right decisions, all of that can be done with very little thinking when you're clear on your values. I have a time wasters guide. If anybody's interested, you can get it at workingmomsmovement.com
Oh,
slash time
yeah.
dash wasters. But that time wasters guide, it's the top 10 ways that people waste time.
Uh,
One of the top 10 ways people waste time is in decision making. And that's
Mm,
something that people overlook. They think it's stuff like social media. Yeah, of course, like social media and TV screen time is not helping you, but
yeah.
decision making is one of people's biggest challenges on wasting time. So when you're clear on your values, the decision making becomes a lot easier. So no, leaving manufacturing, it was a fun job. I actually really liked it. It's like a puzzle. You change something on an assembly line and you start to see all of the downstream effect instantly. Business processes are way harder to manage, but very easy decision because I knew I wanted flexibility. So for any of y'all that have flexibility, one of the things that I believe on in deeply is allowing work and life to flow together. So a lot of people think about boundaries as like a hard start at 9 and a hard end at 5 o'clock, or some variation of whatever that schedule is. I very much do not believe in that. It doesn't
Yeah.
mean it's not right for some people, because there are some people who really do appreciate that structure. But if you talk about maximizing the
Mhm.
pound for pound return on your time, you're probably going to get more out of it if you let your life flow together a little bit. And so don't think about those boundaries as a hard and fast rule, but instead think of the boundaries as not giving yourself away for free.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that when you think about not giving yourself away for free, then that's going to help. So the other thing related to time management,
Mhm.
I think I mentioned this earlier in our talk, but don't how do I put this? Like put first things first. So I did talk about that because of the working out. Like
Please.
when I get my workout in immediately after getting the kids on the bus,
Mhm.
it's amazing what all I'm able to like. I have an hour dedicated at the gym where I'm just grinding it out. But if I try to fit in 10 minutes later in the day after I've already gotten consumed by the day, it's just not going to happen. So I think
Isn't
putting first isn't it wild? Like I can't fit in 10 minutes, but I could fit in an hour if I started with it. Like, but that's kind of the way it works.
that's good.
So for sure, put first things first. I would also argue that it is important to focus on your highest and best use. So that's language that I use a lot. And what I mean by that is your highest and best use is whatever you uniquely need to do because it's something you value, because it's something that you care a lot about, that you're really good at. Maybe it's something you enjoy doing. Like that's where you should be spending your time. But if it's not something that you're inherently good at or inherently enjoy, you probably shouldn't be doing it. Give it to somebody it is. Like give it to your kids, give it to your partner,
Or just
outsource
do
it.
it.
Yeah, that's like the perfect example is cooking. I don't enjoy cooking. I'm not great at it. Um, but it needs done. And because I value health, I need to value eating at home instead of eating out. But that's something that I'm going to spend $100 a week paying somebody else to do, as opposed to me feeling like I need to do it myself. So like that's one of the biggest time management tools you could possibly have, is learning how to effectively delegate and outsource. And then the other thing that I would offer, Sammy, I guess the last thing is probably around owning your calendar. So I just used the language in the last question, playing offense instead of defense on your calendar. Like I don't have an executive assistant that
Mhm.
I'll use my assistant to do my at my so I still lead culture at a Fortune 50 for my day job.
Mhm.
Um I will use an assistant to do my travel and expenses and things like that, or schedule a big meeting, but on the day to day, that's the last thing I would let go of, because I know what I need to stack and move around to make the most out of my time. And a lot of people let their calendars happen to them and just let people own the calendar. I'm telling you, if I'm going to schedule something,
Yeah.
if we make the agreement like, hey, we want to get together, then I'll be like, I'll give you times. So that is truly probably the easiest, most simplest thing somebody can do, is be a lot more intentional with the way they manage their calendar.
I love that. And perfect segue into the next, which is how can I start implementing small systems into my daily routine that aren't overwhelming? So I'm sure a lot of this information is just like, oh my God, there's so much. Like, I need to completely overhaul my whole life and my calendar and my time. And what are some small ways that you could start?
Okay, let me start real quick with the calendar because the calendar probably is one of the easiest ways for people. Like, I'm sure a lot of you have heard about the basics of batch processing.
Mhm.
I don't want to like oversell that batch processing is not going to fix everything when a lot of people think it does, but it is effective.
Mhm.
So even thinking about the ways that you can, like, I think about meeting on days and meeting off days. So this is the only time I'm meeting today.
Mhm.
Otherwise, it's been a complete heads down day, and I try to get at least 4 to 5 hours one day a week where I can be heads down getting stuff done. My one day a week it's just straight meetings, one like I and like I don't know, I'm just so calculated with my calendar. Your in-person meetings, your at-home meetings, your walking meetings, your computer meetings, like I want to clump all of those together so that
Yeah.
way I'm in a mode and I get to stay in that mode. So that's
Yeah.
one thing.
Yeah. So you
I
don't bounce back and forth of
exactly. Yeah,
you
exactly.
know,
The
pause here.
goal is to yeah, try to get as much dedicated think time as you can together and then concentrate on back-to-back meetings. So that way you spend like 2 to 3 hours doing nothing but meetings, and then that frees you up to do 2 to 3 hours of like really dedicated quality think stuff at work. So
Yeah.
that's probably one. The other thing I would offer as it relates to implementing systems, start small. That's probably the biggest thing. Like, don't try to take on too much. So, as an example, one of my clients saying like my doorway is just out of control all the times, like book bags, shoes, whatever it may be. And instead of saying, we're going to tackle the doorway because that's your biggest problem, that's too big of a problem. We're going to start small with her. I'm going to say, like, my instruction to her this week is I need you thinking about the few critical items that if you misplace, it throws your entire way sideways. So my example is my husband. God love him, but I always excuse my French. I always say like, he'd lose his dick if it wasn't attached. Like homeboy just is like the happiest, like going through life, but not really processing what he's doing.
Yeah.
So I tell him like this basket is where your keys and your wallet need to go every time you walk in the door. And when you're clear on, or when he's clear on those keys and wallet being where they are, then all of a sudden him leaving is much more efficient because he's not looking for the two critical items that he needs.
Yeah.
So I'm having my client identify every single family member. What are those few critical things you have to do when you walk in the door instead of tackling the whole thing at once? So for her kids, it's like it's refilling their water bottles. Come in from the evening, their one task is to empty their lunch boxes and refill their water bottles. And then they know, even if everything else isn't perfect, at least their critical items are there. So I would just offer to probably have somebody start small.
I love that. So funny that you were talking about your husband. Does your husband do this? Because mine does this all the time. He's like, "Where is, let's just say the keys?" And I'm like, "Oh, they're on the table." So he goes to the table. He just does this. I didn't see them. I'm like, "You didn't even look for them." And then I walk to the table. I'm like, "Here they are. They're right here." Like they were hiding. I was like, "No, they're." Oh my goodness. Yeah, I love that.
Yep.
That's so funny.
Yeah, we have again, industrial engineer here. In the Six Sigma space, in the industrial and systems engineering space, we have a terminology called 5S.
Mhm.
That is a offshoot of a program called Kaizen that some people that have been in the project management space have heard of. So in Kaizen, there's a concept called 5S, and it
Mhm.
is, I'm gonna botch all of the S's, but it's sort, sustain, sweep. But essentially it's about making sure that everything is tidy and there's a place for everything and everything in its place. So
Mhm.
one of the most critical things, like using your example, Sammy, that your husband could do is have a single place he puts his keys. So that way there's never a doubt that the keys, where the
Oh,
keys are, because you know the keys have a home and the keys are in the home. So if you put if everything has a home and you put it back in its home, you're never going to wonder where they are. You're never going to struggle and waste time looking for them because you know they're in their home.
oh, I love that. Absolutely. 100%. Okay, I'm going to start implementing that myself right after this call. Okay, next question for you. I feel like I'm on a hamster wheel and can't get off. What are some steps that I can take? Also, I have a rock solid routine already, and I think maybe that's part of the problem. I feel too rigid.
I love this question because it probably is so relatable for so many people. Um, The biggest thing I would say is to create breathing room, like kind of like what we talked about earlier. We're in a B minus stage of life. We can't possibly compare ourselves to the standards of what we were able to deliver before. So part of it's granting ourselves some own grace, but also recognizing that, man, kids will throw your entire life sideways if you let them. So you have to create a little bit of breathing room in the schedule for that not to become a stressor. So as an example, one of my clients, she has three girls and or she's an old client of mine and they were chronically late. And I was like, let's just try one thing for a couple weeks and see what happens to your girl stress and what happens to your stress. For everything you do, let's leave 5 minutes early. So
Yeah.
instead of feeling like if you have to be somewhere, if you have to if you have to be somewhere at 1 o'clock, so therefore you need to leave at 12:30 because it's a half hour away, let's leave at 12:25 just for
Yeah.
2 weeks. Let's see what that does. And what she came back with is like, wow, the breathing room made a difference because all of a sudden I know, because I can trust every time that somebody's going to forget their socks upstairs or that they'll lose their favorite stuffed animal that they need to carry with the security animal that comes with us everywhere or whatever it may be. There's always going to be something. Count on there always being something. So start trying to get in the car 5 minutes earlier because what's going to happen is you inherently will be less stressed and therefore your kids are projecting, like you're not projecting that on your kids because right now you're probably projecting that stress on them, which is spinning everybody up.
Yeah.
So I think that that's like breathing room is such a simple concept and it can make such a difference in your ability not to absorb stress and project stress because you know that it's like it's in the system. And then the other thing I would say is just once again going back to what you value, because
Yeah.
there's also probably something in the comparison of others. Like you're seeing what you think other people are doing. And
Mhm.
you don't know what a shit show their life is behind the scenes. Like you are seeing the front, like you're not
Yeah.
seeing the full picture. You're not seeing what kind of help they have or what other parts of like they might be doing something in life really well, but they're probably not doing it well in other ways. So don't believe that others are doing it better than you are, or don't allow what others expect to happen in their life happen in yours. Like you need to own your own story. You need to write your own story instead of letting somebody else write it for you.
Oh, I love that. And can I just share with you your first example of that breathing room? I remember, like, again, after one, having the first baby, things were like pretty easy, the normal like hormone shifts and all that. But if I was going to go out on a hike, like, I didn't really need much extra time. I just made sure to grab the diaper bag, which was always already packed. And so I wouldn't need to give myself extra time to get anywhere. I'd grab the baby, put it in the car seat, and go. And then, uh, probably yes. Um, and as she started walking, all of a sudden I'm stressed out now because where before I could be like, okay, I need to leave at this time to get here at this time. All of a sudden she's walking and talking and has needs and is crying and just absolutely insane. And I'm stressed and now she's stressed and I'm like, put your shoes on. And then with two kids, it was even, I was like, okay, well, I only need to leave like 5 minutes early. And then two kids are walking and talking and crawling and all the things. And I was so stressed out until I figured out that I literally had to give myself 15 minutes before I would, like, before pre-kids to get somewhere. And exactly what you said, that 15 minutes of breathing room was amazing. Sometimes it took 15 minutes to get in the car. Sometimes I was able to sit in the car for 15 minutes because we were early.
That's
So,
it. That's it. Worst case scenario, you get 5 minutes to yourself on the phone. And that like that shows up for me a lot too. It's ironically what I've been working on myself this year because I have a tendency to be a just-in-time person. That's a very industrial engineering, like deep concept of mine. If you're early, that's like time wasted. So in IE, you want everything to be just in time. But what that just in time execution looks like for me real time at this stage in life is more stress because then like I'm panicked if I'm not going to be there to pick up my kids on time. So I'd much rather sit in the carpool 5 extra minutes than know that I'm late and having to go to the office and apologize that I was late for picking them up from carpool. You know, whatever that kind of stuff that I used like old me used to stress about. I need to remove those stresses in my life now because I've got enough others. And one of these days the kids will be out of the house, and then that can be my primary source of stress is like being just on time or if I'm late. But right now it's just not worth it.
Not at all. Oh, I love that. I know we're getting close to out of time. Would it be okay if I ask one more question
No,
and
of
then
course. Yeah.
want to do a part two
Yeah.
later? Yeah,
Yeah. I
cool.
would love that.
Okay. So I thought this would be a great last question to answer for our part one, since we kind of talked about it a little bit. But what are some of the biggest mistakes you see working moms make?
Ooh, it's funny that this is actually what the foundation of my training is that I give a couple times a year because there are a handful of them that I'm a big believer in. But to distill it down for your audience and your community, I think it's doing it all themselves.
Mm,
And we almost started there, so it's ironic and just poetic that we're ending where we started.
yeah.
But it's just physically impossible to do it all alone and be able to get it all in. So again, I do believe I do it all. I have it all. I do believe I have it all. And I think that other moms can have it all too, but not if they're doing it themselves and not if they're doing things that they don't value. Like going back to my car example, I'm riding around in a 2013 car with
Mm,
170,000 miles because I don't value
mhm.
replacing that over other things because you only have so many resources and your time, money, and energy has to go
Yeah.
where you value it. So I would certainly say don't do it all alone. You have to learn to delegate. It's a skill that many of us learn at work but
Yeah.
we don't practice at home. And particularly our generation is really bad about doing things for our kids. Whereas, and like when we were raised, our parents were not shy about giving us chores and giving us responsibilities around the house. So I think, use your family, use your kids, use your partner if you have one. Um, they're going to help you out pay to outsource somebody. That's something that I teach my clients is how to outsource well to a house manager because it doesn't have to be expensive. Like $100 a week is the only seed money you need to be able to get rid of most of your low hanging fruit of the things you hate, which is not necessarily achievable for everybody, but achievable for many people. So outsource. There's some great organizations that I partner with that also offer different source of outsourcing
I think one of
capabilities.
them we've had Christine on.
Christine Landis at Peacock Parent. Yeah,
Yeah.
Christine is a close colleague of mine, probably my closest colleague.
Yeah.
So yeah,
We love her, all of her stuff.
Christine's program is fantastic. I'm a big believer in that. I'm a proud Peacock Parent partner, so I have my services available in there as well.
Cool.
But yeah, definitely get rid of the things that you can. And then we've talked about this a lot, Sammy, but systematize, like institute the systems, whether that be routines or delineation, like clear delineation of responsibilities, or order, having homes for places. We've talked about that because the more systematized your life is, the less you or your kids or your partner will be guessing or wasting time looking for things or wasting time doing things that need to be undone and redone later. So the more of a systemized life that you can have that is aligned around your core values, the more likely you are to maximize your time and minimize your stressors.
Oh, I love that. So just a quick little recap. So guys, homework or not homework, invitation if you want homework. Uh, look at all of our values and add some breathing room. Look at some systems and delegating is what some of the big four that I just got from that answer to throw into everyone to start implementing.
Perfect. Well,
Yeah.
Sammy, thank you for having me here.
Thank you so much. I look forward to part two.